Welcome to Because We Love You, a podcast dedicated to helping you live a life of wellness. My name is Stacy, and this is my co-host Jade.
Hi, everyone. This episode is on being a Grinch. And so, bah humbug, listen up. We've got some good information about the Grinches in our lives.
That's right. And if you're not watching us, if you're just listening, just please know that we have our lovely matching Grinch shirts on. So we'll be posting some pictures this week in these, but...
Yes. Check out our show notes for more information and follow us on Instagram and Facebook.
Or you can listen on Apple Podcast or Spotify or watch us on YouTube.
Quick note for listeners before we begin this episode of the Because We Love You podcast. Your hosts, Stacy and Jade, will be taking a short break during this holiday season to enjoy time with family and friends. The Because We Love You podcast will return to regular scheduling on Tuesday, January the 11th, with more guests and more topics and content to help you live a life of wellness. Until then, we wish you and yours the best of the holiday season. Thanks for being part of the Because We Love You community.
So it's almost Christmas, which is super exciting for me at least.
Super excited. It is the most wonderful time of the year. Come on. Yeah. It's filled with
I don't know. What is
marshmallows.
It? Laughter and
No.
You don't need to brush up on my Christmas music
trivia. You don't know the words to that song.
No.
Sadness. But no, I love Christmas and I love a lot of things about it. And I mean, I think, the lights and just being together and gifts. What is your most favorite thing about the Christmas holiday?
Oh gosh, so many, right? There's so many great things. But one I would point out right now, because Addie's a little bit older, is every Sunday night we watch one of the Hallmark movies. A little worried I'm giving her a false sense of love in small towns.
But the best part about a Hallmark movie is that, like, when she's with that bad guy that treats her wrong, like, she's going to know it's okay for that good guy to come in and sweep me off my feet. That's what I like.
True.
I like that about the Hallmark
that's a good
movies.
message. And her favorite part is the kissing, of course.
That's good.
I know. Good. Good for,
I want my kids to be good kissers. So.
I mean, I don't think Hallmark movies, though, are the best place to go for good kissing advice.
It's sweet kissing. It's very PG.
It is,
So if they're going to kiss, I want them to think that's the way that all the kissing is.
Okay,
we digress. My most favorite thing about this current season of my life, I can't say all ever, but I love that our friend group is doing Secret Santa. That just is bringing me so much joy.
Yeah.
And just thinking up these creative ideas that person likes and that would make them feel happy on a random day and surprising them. It's brought a lot of joy into my life. So
agreed. Another thing I love is food. Big food fan, especially junk food. And so baking cookies, I feel like it's so fun. I love to bake cookies from scratch with friends and the kids and decorate them and eat them and give them away. So much good stuff.
I love balls of light. So specifically, I was just trying to think of one thing that I really like. Yeah. And we just found this place out in Greensboro by Friendly. It was a few years ago. And it's a free way to see balls of light. And you just open up the sun. We open up our sunroof and, we play Christmas music with the heat blaring. So hotness is hitting you, but coldness is tinkering on you and everything's open and there's balls and it almost looks 3D on a dark night.
Yes.
And so very specifically go see the balls of light. Off Friendly. It's a free entertainment. So
if you're not from here, you have no idea what this is, but people around here, this is very surprising to me when I moved here, create these they use, I guess, chicken wire to make and Christmas lights to make these, just balls of Christmas lights. And it looks awesome.
Yeah. I'm going to make me some balls this year. Let's do balls. That should be a goal.
Balls of light.
We should have balls of light.
Okay. All right, let's do it.
But the reality is that, yes, many people feel this way about Christmas and the holidays, and it brings so much joy and happiness. but not everyone.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of people experience what psychologists call the holiday blues, which is not, really a diagnosable disorder, but it is a real thing. So many of you may relate to the joy and the special times associated with the holidays, but many of you others feel sad. A definition I found from Fatima Watt, she's the director of behavioral health services at Franciscan Children's, and she says that holiday blues are defined as feelings of stress, anxiety, and sadness that surround the holiday season. So what you're going to see is usually between November and January, between Thanksgiving and Christmas or the New Year, of course. It just feels more stressful. It feels more anxious.
Anxiety, just fatigue. I hear that a lot. It's just like, I'm more tired.
Yep.
There's a statistic that says 38% of people report more stress in general during the holidays, in a time where we're supposed to be all about having fun and going and doing things
relaxing,
after
off work.
But even talking with a friend last night, it's almost like your schedule is more packed.
Yep.
With things to do and things to be. And it's like, no, your work Christmas party is supposed to be this like enjoyable, fun thing to do that you don't normally do. But then you make it in certain like around this time, it's like, oh, this is so stressful and we don't have enough time and another thing to do. Yeah. So retraining. But we're wearing our Grinch shirts today that we've already told you before, but this is kind of representing, like, sometimes we look at people and we see, you're just a Grinch, right?
And sometimes we feel it like I'm the Grinch, right? Like sometimes we feel, even in moments, even if it's not all season, like moments of, this is just annoying. Or this.
We joke with your husband that he's the Grinch, but he had his trees up early this year.
Right.
So we are working. We are working on
making him a little happier. And I think it's important to acknowledge that you can experience both the happiness and the stress of the holiday season together. Like you may feel excited about it and happy and joyful, but then also feel stressed and anxious or irritable. Those things can go, they can go together.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you have to accept it, but even in the clinic, when I see people, I mean, there is a big rise in numbers of people who already have mental illness, such as depression, anxiety, bipolar, and then the holidays tend to exacerbate that because of the extra stress that's added. The research shows about 64% of people who already have a mental illness, they report that it worsens during this time of year.
Yeah,
so
that's
knowing that people that are already struggling with that, the holidays don't really, make it all better.
That's right.
But sometimes they do make it worse. One thing I found interesting in our reading was a myth. It was a myth buster because quite often we hear the media say that suicide rates increase around the holidays in this time of year, but there was actually a myth that is
there's
not.
No evidence of that.
There's no evidence, and so
the rates are actually fairly low.
Yeah, and it was actually surprising that the rates actually increase in the summertime, like August and around the August area. And I wonder why they do that, say that, and when it's actually evidence doesn't support that, because it's like when you talk about something, you actually make more awareness to it. So I don't know. They think that like maybe that even just worsens the holiday blue.
Good, right? To try and bring awareness to those issues, but yeah. To know it's not the case.
So this week it was actually, sometimes when you don't struggle with something or you don't see it in your everyday life, you kind of forget that, hey, there are people that are Grinches, and not because that's a bad thing, but we're just using Grinch as a reference today, and we wanted to like wear cute shirts like this so that everybody could see. But I had a friend, and a Facebook post this week, and where she talked about how Christmas in this time of the year is not all joy for her. She has lost some loved ones, and she doesn't have a huge, big family together around the Christmas tree and she doesn't have a place to belong or be, and it's a very sad time of year, and she just wanted to bring awareness. But for me, it did bring that, and it actually sparked on something. It's like there are more than we know people like that in our lives, and it's up to us to not look at them like, oh, they don't want to do this, or oh, they're so frustrating, but to come alongside of them and perhaps figure out some of those feelings and to walk and do life with them.
Yeah. So it might be you, right? But it might be, even if you're feeling pretty great, kind of look around and see who's who's sad and maybe struggling with the holidays. And I think there are lots of different reasons why people struggle with the holiday blues. So, one reason we talked about, some people just don't enjoy the holidays, just kind of have that bah humbug attitude. Maybe, there are lots of reasons, of course, that could be the case. I think one reason is just the commercialism surrounding the holidays can be super annoying at times.
Yeah. They don't want to, I sometimes buck the system because I don't want to be told what to do. Yeah. Don't tell me that I need this many gifts and that I need to do it this way and whatnot. And I think sometimes when you tell people what to do, they're like, what? No, I'm not going to spend all that money. I'm not going to do those things. And then some people like have lost a little bit of the magic, I think, that comes with like the childhood Christmas. And so maybe that's
like you realize all these businesses just using the season to get your money, right? And think about all of the money spent on Black Friday, or you think about even fun activities that you can do with your family. Like, we're going to do Christmas lights, and it's like,
it's only $239
it's a lot of
to
money.
See the balls of light. No, the balls of light are free, folks.
Yeah.
Go do the balls of light. But some of these other lights, it's just like
these hayride and see the lights and sip hot cocoa for a mere $70 per person. Like, why are you doing this? Why are we doing this? Yeah,
exactly. I think that time and time again, I've seen the biggest reason that people do have this bah humbug attitude and are just deeply sad during the season is grief, though.
Yeah.
That's just such a huge thing. I've seen it personally in my Nana's life, just the grief of losing her husband. She's not been the same since, and in friends too.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Like, how have you seen grief affect people? And
I think,
Christmas spirit?
even of, as a personal example, I think about growing up and the magical things that we did, or just the traditions that we have. I think grief and loss change our traditions or make them feel different, and it feels bad. Like, growing up, we went to my grandparents' house every Christmas Eve, and I just looked so forward to those days because all, my aunts and uncles and all of my cousins would be there. We would exchange gifts. We would get to open some of our gifts from our aunts and uncles. My aunt would make her famous spaghetti sauce. We would always do spaghetti on Christmas Eve. And it just felt thinking back to playing games and opening gifts and watching TV and just hanging out in the living room with family felt so special. And I remember the years right after my grandparents died, it just did not feel like a happy thing. Like Christmas Eve has never felt the same. It's like we haven't gotten in a groove of a new tradition. I think part of it is just that traditions change. And when people are missing from the table, it's just, that's hard to cope with for a long time.
With grief specifically, I read read an article from Adam Grant, and he was talking about grief and how like maybe it's viewing it from a different perspective. And so this perspective was one of viewing grief as love. Like as an expression of love instead of this deep pain. So moving from that, viewing it as pain and hard and, or maybe even just rushing to process it or sweep it under the rug. Like this didn't really happen. But saying, no, that this is something to be remembered, and maybe your Christmas Eve tradition should include talking about that. Do you remember when, like thinking back and pulling those old things that brought you so much happiness, but then in replacing it with something new, something that you create for your children. Because I think it's so important that, yes, maybe your memory has been tainted and some of that joy has been taken out, but we're responsible for making new memories that create that same expression of love for our children and our friends. And it can be better. I think viewing that like the past is good for a lot of us, but the future can be better. It looks a little different.
Yeah. And I really like that stuff by Adam Grant and what you're saying about grief and just acknowledging it. Like it's okay to feel grief. We don't need to shut it down and turn it off and pretend we're okay. Talking about those emotions, acknowledging those emotions is totally normal and healthy. I think that's important. And like you said, just
my family, actually, I have an aunt who loves to make these books of our life and like the people who have passed on. And so when someone dies, she always makes a book about them, like from the time they were born. And I think, we store them, and so we can pull them out at any time. And so sometimes it is around the holidays when we're all together that we'll pull out this big book of Grandma Hallie, you know, and we'll go through her life. And, her daughters will cry some, and the sons will cry. My mom remembering her grandmother, because it was my great-great-grandmother. And it's just a beautiful time to know that, like, this grief, those tears sometimes can be out of remembering how good it was.
Absolutely.
And so I just like maybe encourage people to remember that, like create a memorial, to talk about it and not be like, no, we're not,
I love that, experiencing grief as a form of love. Now, of course, there are points where that can get dangerous. And if you can't get over that and it's been a long time or it's affecting how you function in daily life, of course, you should talk to someone. But
and prolonged grief is, the definition is more than a year after someone has passed or a loss has been taken from you, where not that you don't think about them, you can think about them and but that it affects your day-to-day life, that you, like self-expression, that you feel like something is really missing from you and like who you are to be, and where you don't want to get up and you don't have pleasure in doing things. So that's when we really encourage people to reach out to their primary care physician and or provider and get help, because there are a lot of good ways with counseling to process this and figure out how to live a better life.
For sure. Yeah. They're very knowledgeable people who specialize in grief counseling. So it can be very, very helpful.
Yeah. I think another huge reason why people are Grinches this time of year is money.
Absolutely. Goodness, how much money is spent over the course of,
we should have looked up those stats. This is crazy. I know how much we spend and we try to like keep it to a minimum. And I'm like, wow, this really adds up.
Absolutely. And financial stress is hard. It's hard to carry. It, affects all areas of your life. And you think about not only gift giving, but all of the parties you're going to, the outfits you buy, the food that you provide for families and friends. It's really taxing, can be really taxing on families.
Yeah, research shows that 53% of people report that there's a strain on them during this time of year financially, and that they're thinking about money a lot more than they on average do. And I think that's huge.
Yeah, and one thing that we were talking about when looking over the research I thought was interesting was the studies coming out on family and children, and how children are actually pretty aware of those financial burdens, even though parents report trying to hide it and not talking about it. But in one study we read, 87% of children
were aware.
Yeah, were aware of their needs and pretty right on about where their family fell in terms of financial strain, which is a little surprising, but
I think that is something that we do try to shelter from our children so many times. We're like, we don't want to bother them with this.
Yeah.
But if they know, isn't it like a great tool to use this as awareness and guide them through the process? Because perhaps things aren't as bad as we made it seem in that phone call that they overheard, whatnot, and that they're spending their time worrying and like making sure they're not asking for things, when we could be walking through and kind of guiding them and saying, yes, things are hard, or yes, or we have the money, but we want to make sure we have enough money to give, or enough money to distribute to all of our vacations or whatever. And I think that that lacking, actually my mom did her dissertation on finances in children and how it's just not taught very well. And that if we start educating our children earlier on how to use money, and that, that there is a limited supply and that you have to work for it and things, that they're just so much more healthier. So this was an eye-opener that, like, yes, when we're buying things and when we're spending money, if we're stressed, our kids are actually feeling a little stressed themselves.
Yeah, they catch on. And they're engaging in a lot of social comparison, I think, around the holidays. Like, what are other kids getting or doing that they're not, experiencing? And so it's a natural thing. We all do it. And
it's like our kids that come up with a new Christmas gift the day before Christmas. Oh yeah, I saw that and I want this
more than anything.
Yes, this is the only gift. And I'm like, yeah, Santa has already made the toys.
Yes.
But it's so hard because it's like, no,
is.
that last thing that I saw is the thing I really, really, really want.
Yeah.
I always like the idea of giving experiences, but it always seems like then whenever the opening is like not what you want to like. Yay, we're going on the trip.
Yeah. It's like, I promise it'll be fun when we get there.
But I have
you don't have
nothing to play
anything in
with.
your hands right now.
And it's like the day after Christmas when you're playing with all the toys, you're like, just lay there and think about that trip in your head.
Yeah. That's good. Another thing that I've seen a lot of people do is kind of limiting the number of gifts they give and giving them for certain reasons, kind of being intentional about gift giving. And so one that we saw was what do you need? What do you want? Something to read, something to wear, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
What get one thing you want, one thing you need, one thing to wear, and one thing to read.
Oh yeah, that sounds much better. That's a cute little jingle.
It's supposed to roll off the tip of your tongue.
So there you go. That'll help you remember.
That's a practical way. Not that we all have to run out and adapt to that, but don't we want to be teaching our kids that it's just it's less about what you get, and yes, it's fun to get things and be useful, but honestly, sometimes you see kids that get like so many things and they can't even really enjoy them. That smaller quantity is like they really enjoy that baby doll,
and they look overwhelmed when we've been in those moments before where they're just opening for hours, and it's like at some point it loses its luster. Like, this is not exciting anymore.
This is another thing that my family has always done is we only open one gift at a time. Like, so you can buy less. Yeah, because it goes long. I mean, gift opening can take an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours at a time, but we all focus all of our attention to the one person open the gift, and they open it, and we watch them enjoy it, and then we go to the next person. And I think that one, you can buy less, and then two, you're actually, because when everybody's opening at the same time, you can't really get that feeling of like, oh wow, they love that. Sometimes we'll even pause and try on the bra and panties that we're giving. No, because my mom always weird. So my mom always gets me a bra and a fanny set every year for Christmas.
You go try them on.
Because I hate buying stuff. I hate shopping for that stuff. So sometimes we'll be like, oh, not this year because I'm already cold. So no nakedness this year.
And some people, I think of my son, who is the best person to give gifts to. And
oh my God, I love it.
If any of you have ever given a gift to Evan, he is the best about... Like, it's not even an act. Like, I would say acting like it's the best thing ever every time you open something, but he truly gets so excited, and he never asks for anything, so it's so fun. Yeah.
If we can teach all of our kids to be like that. I think about, like, my mom's not like this with food, with gifts, but food. She's always, it's like, bring her any dish, and she's like, oh, this is the best thing ever, but it makes you want to keep making her stuff. It's like, I want to cook for Paula because she's going to always think, this is the best thing ever.
So maybe that's good advice for the season. Be a good gift getter. Right? Yeah. When you get something, just go all out.
Yeah. Express yourself.
Yeah. Dance. Try on your brown panties.
That is a little weird. I didn't mean for it to, okay, I didn't mean for it to be as weird as it came out, but I was just thinking of one gift that like we pause sometime and I'm like, oh, I got my new brown panties. Yeah, we're a very open family. Okay, so we digress. But I think another reason to transition that people tend to be Grinches during this year is they just didn't have that modeled for them in their childhood.
Yeah, holidays were not a happy time. And that makes, that's heartbreaking to think about.
With like alcoholics.
Yeah, living in poverty. The families who have that one just toxic family member who always brings up the thing we shouldn't talk about or is very critical or negative and just, makes you not look forward to being together.
Parents that are absent and just not in their life. I think about so many kids, they're out of school, the world kind of shuts down. And so when you don't have somebody to walk along and be there with you, then that is a very, very sad time. So looking out for that, I still believe and hope in redemption. So I want to say that, yes, that might be a reason why you can feel that way or lean towards, and remember, but we can change, and you can can be different.
Those memories and create a new normal around the holidays.
Yeah. And it could be better for your kids. And
for sure.
I was listening to an adoption story from a girl from Russia, and she's had such a hard life, and she was never truly loved, and spent many of her years until she's like 16 years old, actually, in different orphanages and things like that. But she actually now has 4 children, and she talks about how she was like, no, I'm the best mother. And her husband's like, she is phenomenal, because she has intercepted and not let the pattern of her life, which was often emptiness and sadness and not feeling loved. She's went the other way and said, I refuse for my children to feel this way. And that's a story of love, but it can even be around this holiday. Like, I know my Christmas, my holidays were full of this, but I refuse to let this continue.
And cycle.
So I believe if that's your story, and that's then work to change it.
Yeah, you can use it for good. Of course, we never, wish for those things, those experiences, but certainly they can be used to grow and make things better.
Yeah, exactly.
I think also of the opposite problem, like people who really have these magical, great childhood memories of the holidays, and then it becomes so much pressure to recreate that every year. Like if you had the mom who was like, I think of those moms who are like, the class parent, and they make the cutest cookies and wrap them with the precious ribbons
of making cute cookies. I think we experienced this last weekend. We were like, we are going to bake cookies. That's something that Stacy really loves to do with our children.
Jade does not.
It's not that I don't enjoy it. It's mainly that I'm not good at it. And I feel like your hands weren't all on deck on this one. And she kind of let me fluster, and the gingerbread dough.
Well, the best part was we got boxes of cookie dough where all you had to add was like oil and an egg, and she opens the boxes and are like, wait, the dough is not already in here. I'm like, it's like 2 steps. We're not even making these from scratch, but it was very overwhelming for you.
Well, I thought the best moment was when I got out the rolling pin. I finally found it because my husband wasn't home, and he's the one who knows where the rolling pin is. So I get out this rolling pin, and my daughter was like, what are you doing with that? Did Cinnamon do something wrong? Are you going to beat the dog? I'm like, what? This is ridiculous. Like, I would never.
Children, when she picks up a rolling pin, the last thing they think is she's going to use it to bake, which was the best part of that whole
But
story.
I love to be there when people are baking. I do. It's so enjoyable. But Stacy's hands weren't all on deck on this one, and these cookies did not turn out like we wanted them to.
We let our children have all the control. So.
Yeah. Definitely not like the Facebook and Instagram posts that I've seen so many of you post this year. But what was interesting was our kids loved it, and they thought they were beautiful.
They're the best time.
So beautiful that what did they do, Stacy?
The next morning they woke up because we slept over and went out to the street and tried to sell these cookies to neighbors. And what's so funny, I wish we had a picture of these cookies because the frosting was all over the place. There were all kinds of candy on them. They sprinkled melted
whipped cream.
Like, it looked disgusting. They sprinkled hot chocolate powder on top of all the cookies for
extra
some reason.
Marshmallows.
Oh yeah, like
the hard syrup, the chocolate syrup,
caramel, like,
and they were not individually packaged.
No,
and they were on our own hard plates, not paper plates. So our kids did this on their own, and they started selling. They actually made $15. They gave away 4 plates though.
Yeah.
So we really did.
We did use that to replace some stuff in your house, but yeah.
But I think the purpose in that is to show that we don't have to put so much pressure on ourselves to create these perfect moments. That is in the imperfection. Sometimes that just doing the thing and being there and being present is when the joy and the happiness. Those kids don't know that their cookies were not.
Yeah, hopefully they don't listen to this episode. We loved them. They tasted so great and were so pretty.
No, my mom really thought that they might taste good. She's like, I just thought maybe they looked bad and they were going to taste good. So she's like, I was like on the way, I bought a cookie and I bit into it and was like, oh my goodness.
So funny. Yeah, that was a Christmas fail. But
not
really a win in the sense that they had a great time and everyone had so much fun. So I
maybe
think
we need to normalize posting our imperfect Christmas
ugly Christmas cookie party.
Yeah,
forget the sweaters.
Yes.
Ugly Christmas cookies should be.
You can do whatever. I will come to that party.
All right,
because I
we'll
won't
do it.
feel so like.
Let's have an ugly Christmas cookie party. So fun that we can eat them all. We just need them to taste good.
Yeah. So take a deep breath this year and take the pressure off of yourself. Right. And, you know, if you're trying to go see lights and you want to go in your PJs, go in your PJs. Yes. And just do the thing, even though it's not perfect.
Life is not a Hallmark movie.
I know. Right? You're just going to have to tell Addie that over and over again.
No cute pea coats and scarves and those cute hats that everyone can wear that look ridiculous on me.
Everything does not have to happen in the country. All good things. Good things can happen in the city. City boys are not so bad.
Yeah, that's right. Shout out to our city boys.
Even though I married a country boy. So, no. But let's give some tips this year. Like how, you know, if you're struggling, if you know that yourself is identified as a Grinch in some aspect, and maybe it's just this year Grinch. I mean, I think there are years where we can be Grinchy. I remember the year that I had the major disc herniation. I was a Grinch. I didn't want to do things. I was sad. I cried a lot. I remember crying on Christmas and just I wanted to isolate. And so there are years where you can just be a Grinch. But how can we be better? Yeah. How can we work through this, Stace?
Well, I think kind of if we take all of this together, one thing to remember is just to kind of try and stay in the moment. Like, it's not about the stuff. It's not about necessarily paying for really expensive experiences. It's just being intentional with your time and who you're with. And when you're in those moments, just looking around and being grateful and looking, you know, like, look at this. Look how happy my kid is with these ugly gingerbread cookies. Like, you know, just stopping and recognizing the goodness in the moments.
We kind of already said this, but I think just not normalizing not being perfect. Yes. I think that's the best way to put it, is normalizing not being perfect. And being willing to even share that. I think that should be a trend, is that with so many filters and so many perfect pictures that we take and staging, we feel strange to not just post our picture with wrapping paper everywhere. But just normalize not being perfect.
Yeah. I think something else that's important is sometimes we let go of our routines during the holidays. Yes. So all of the things that we've talked about all along, like a regular exercise schedule, trying to practice gratitude, making sure that you're getting sleep, making sure you're not like drinking too much or overeating, which we of course all do a little bit in the holidays, but you know, just keeping up those good self-care habits, taking time for yourself. You don't need to be everything to everyone. Just, you know, take care of yourself. Taking care of yourself.
Self-care is huge. And finally, I think one thing that has always been super important to me and so many people, whether is that it's not just about the gifts. Right. It's not just about all the lights. Truly, there's a spiritual significance to this too. And whether you go deeper spiritually with Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or whatever the thing is that you celebrate, for me, it's Jesus. And that doesn't change. Yeah. You know, that has not changed. It doesn't matter how many people I lose in my life. There was a baby and he was born and he came to die for our sins. And this is the moment where we can teach our kids that, you know, it's not just about all of these tangible things. It's about celebrating our Savior. Yeah, that day, the world changed forever. This boy came to bring peace to the world, and that's what we celebrate. And those are the important things. Yeah. And I think that it makes all this a little bit easier when we can have that to like rest in. Okay. And I always like to tell the kids, you know, that this is when he came to be a light to the world. And this is our time to remember the light that we have in us to shine. And so instead of thinking about all the things we have to do, maybe it's all the things we get to do to shine the light of Jesus bigger and greater. So if you're struggling with any of this stuff, just remember Jesus and how his light shines within us and through us. And that's a great reason for the season.
Yes, reason for the season. Love it. So this holiday season, simplify, go back to what really matters. Do something that's even free, but brings joy to others. Serve is a good one. It's a good way to bring Christmas joy.
I would like for my friends, I want you to post the imperfect picture.
There you go.
Celebrating the holidays and enjoying Christmas, and tag Because We Love You. Okay.
Yes.
We want to see these pictures. So we want our families and friends and anybody watching or listening, we want to see some of the imperfect memories of this season.
And we will
so that we can,
yes. We have a lot of imperfect Christmas moments.
I just hate we don't have the cookies.
I know.
Maybe we'll do a repeat.
I'm sure we can do more.
But this week, make a point to do that. And we love to see them laugh with you and enjoy this Christmas season. Don't be a Grinch.
Why?
Because we love you.